The wars between the Tau Empire and the Tyranids are a classic example of a technologically superior foe defending itself against a primal and truly alien enemy. Because the first hive fleets entered the Milky Way galaxy from the eastern edge, the Tau now know the tireless and unrelenting assaults that come with a Tyranid invasion. All throughout the Empire, horror stories have circulated of the terror that comes with this enemy. The light of an entire sun has been blocked out by the swarms of the great devourer's bioorganisms. Nothing is safe from this endless hunger. Worst of all is that there is no reasoning with the hive mind. While the Tau Empire has settled wars with diplomacy or even espionage, the Tyranids have no form of communication. They effectively make the water caste insignificant, forcing the defense of a planet completely on the shoulders of the castes that are fit for war. To make matters worse, the Tyranids' incredible adaptability has been able to crush much of the Tau's technological superiority. Anything the Tau Empire has thrown at the Tyranids, the hive mind has been able to counter. But that's not to say that the Tau don't have any victories. They are no easy target, for the Tau are no less dynamic of a species than the Tyranids, always willing to adapt to their methods rooted in the flexibility of their technology rather than biological evolution. The Tau proved to be a very different kind of foe for the Tyranids, one less hidebound by tradition and doctrines than either the humans of the Imperium of Man or the Eldar of the Craft World. A war that highlights this dynamic is the assault of the fortress world of Shadrach, where the Tyranids of High Fleet Gorgon invaded the Tau Empire colony world. And with that said, I want to welcome you guys back to another 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Tau versus the Tyranids. If you guys are new to the channel, we post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you guys have any questions or suggestions for video topics, just comment down in the comment section below. And if you enjoy our content, don't forget to hit the like button, share this with your friends, and support us on Patreon. The link is down in the description below. It's just $1 a month. But with all of that said, let's get into 40 facts on the assault on the fortress world of Shadrach. Surprisingly, the Tau Empire was the first alerted to the arrival of High Fleet Gorgon, when the initial planets consumed were Imperial worlds that had developed trade with the Tau Empire. Next, all contact was lost with the outbound Brotherhood's Tau Explorator fleet. After it strayed into the path of the ravenous Tyranids, the Tau fleet was consumed so quickly that not a single warning of the coming onslaught managed to escape. And then the forested colony world of Shadrach's orbital system perimeter outpost were eliminated. The Kelshan Sept fleet, under the command of Kor-Ul Valroth, was sent to investigate. Before they could arrive, the orbital shipyards of Shadrach's moons were attacked by High Fleet Gorgon's outriders. With all other options ruled out, the defenders of the shipyard sealed themselves within the main complex, trusting to their Inceptor screens to buy them time. Tens of thousands of Tyranid gargoyles died under the Tau Inceptor fire. The Tyranids moved on to the forested world below, leaving only a handful of bioships to blockade the moon. Eventually, a new strain of gargoyles attacked the lunar complex. The interceptor screens opened fire once again, but the power of its strike had been lessened by a new refractive mucus coating that now covered the gargoyles' chitinous hide. Their primary means of defense lost, the lunar shipyards were finally overwhelmed. By the time the Kelshan Sept fleet arrived, the world was already under full siege by the Gorgon. The Tau fleet breached the Tyranid blockade of the forested world long enough that it was able to deliver firecast reinforcements to the world's defenders, but was forced to retreat from direct combat. Kor-Ul Valroth ordered a hit-and-run attack to begin on the High Fleet's perimeters. Down on the planet, with its defenses bolstered by the additional warriors of Kelshan, Kroot auxiliaries went out to create a defense line on the surface of the planet that would meet the Tyranids' initial ground assault. In response to this, a vast swarm of Tyranid Hormagaunts assaulted the Kroot defensive position in the great forest of the planet. Many of the invaders were entangled by the forest's heavy foliage and undergrowth, or caught in the Kroot's specially prepared trap. Under the command of Shaper Pakali, the Kroot managed to drive the Tyranids back from the outer perimeter line. What made the Kroot so successful was their experience at dealing with the animalistic war tactics of the Hormagaunts. The hordes of Tyranids were no different than the hordes of the Greenskins battled on countless worlds throughout the Tau Empire. False weaknesses within the Tau Kroot line allowed them to funnel the attacking creatures into ambush after ambush. With this method, the Kroot were able to separate and eliminate the enemy piece by piece. The Kroot rifles proved to have the versatility the warriors needed to battle the Hormagaunts, as it served as a better close combat weapon than the pulse rifle of the Fire Warriors. For the massive blobs of Tyranids, the Kroot employed the Kroot guns. These were huge, heavy weapons mounted on the backs of Krootoks, the species' large pack animal. As the bodies of the Tyranids began to stack up, the warriors removed the massive chitinous claws each Tyranid creature possessed. They also collected the toxic sacs found inside the Hormagaunts' bodies. The toxic chemicals found inside these sacs were used as weapons, as were the scything talons. No Kroot was allowed to consume the flesh of this tainted enemy. Despite the Kroot's victory, their position was assaulted once more, this time by a modified variant of Hormagaunts who had been bred swifter by the hive mind, and thus they were less vulnerable to being ensnared by the forest world's undergrowth or the Kroot traps. Only brute force and sheer tenacity allowed the Kroot defenders to hold the line. Unfortunately, a final wave of Hormagaunts swamped the carefully prepared Kroot defensive line and it fell. Following their heavy loss, the Tau Fire Warriors realized that the Hormagaunts and Termagaunts of Gorgon developed an almost total immunity to the fire of the Tau's pulse rifle. With this new development, the main settlement of the planet was finally overrun by the Tyranids, and the Tau commanders chose to withdraw their remaining forces into the forest world's mountains. Tau stealth teams were sent in to recover several hundred Kroot rifles from the ruins of the Shaper's final defensive perimeter. This weaponry was dispersed amongst the remaining Fire Warriors. In orbit of the forest world, fresh broods of Hormagaunts and Gargoyles were spawned by the Hive Fleet with chameleon-like hides that allowed them to completely blend in with their environment. They were now nearly invisible to the naked eye. Now only the sensors of the Tau battlesuits could be relied upon to accurately detect them. Realizing that the situation on the planet was unwinnable, the Tau commanders ordered the Tau Fire Caste to withdraw from the forested world. Luckily, Kelshawn's Sept fleet broke the Tyranid blockade long enough to retrieve the bulk of the surviving Tau ground forces. Only Shasel Vorak and his hunter cadre chose to remain on the world under the pretext of covering the Tau retreat, but with the full intention of remaining behind to continue the fight despite the long odds. The hunter cadre initiated a series of suicide missions that shattered the Tyranids' web of synapse. The success of this operation actually drove the Tyranids of the Gorgon from the forested world, but it proved to be a Pyhrric victory, as the planet had been almost completely consumed by the Ripper swarms. Vorak's hunter cadre abandoned the near-lifeless planet not long after, taking some solace in the fact that they had denied the Tyranids of the entirety of the planet's biomass. And those were 40 facts on the assault on the fortress world of Shadrach. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you see that the lore behind the adaptability of the Tyranids can get really OP really quick. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.